Let's begin with power supply in Nigeria, which continues to wobble. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has confirmed that the national grid has been restored after its partial collapse on Monday. The General Manager Public Affairs of TCN in Diumba explained that the partial collapse was caused by a sudden drop in system frequency, which created instability. Rhetorics. I don't know, a layman on the streets might not understand what they're trying to say. But the bottom line is that this power collapse, it used to be something of maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago before. But in the last 2 years, it has becoming something that is a recurring decimal.
Yes, and as I've explained in the past, different things can cause system collapse. There is a level of gas supply that the generating companies need. The bulk of energy that we use is from gas-fired power stations. We have 3 hydro power stations, but the bulk of the energy comes from gas-fired power stations. Egbe, for example, here in Lagos, is the biggest in West Africa. It is the biggest power plant that we have in terms of the quantum of energy.
That's Egbe.
Yes, Egbe here. In terms of the power that we can generate through it, is undoubtedly the biggest, and it's gas-fired. So when you don't have an optimum level of gas supply to the power plants.
But Jide, we have gas now. As in, we manufacture gas in Nigeria.
But sometimes, due to the activities of vandals, the pipelines can be breached. Okay. Because these boys, I don't understand how they think. If you breach a gas pipeline, you've wasted.
Are you going to arrest?
You can't can it in any way. So it's useless to you. But some of them will probably think this is a pipeline for petrol, for PMS or something. They will then breach it only for heat to cause supply of gas to not get to the power stations. Don't forget that we have power stations built far away from the source of gas. That's the way it is. Geregu, Egbe, Omotosho, Papalanto, all of them are built far away from the source of gas. So anytime there is a disruption, then it affects us. Whether it is Alaujio, they are all far away from the source of gas. So, and then of course sometimes these gas suppliers are owed some money.
Yeah.
So they refuse to supply.
By the distribution company?
By the GENCOs, the generating companies. So the generating companies too to be dragging discos. The discos are the face of the industry because they are the ones who reach out to you and I to collect money for energy used. So they would want the discos to remit on the part of the person who has provided you with gas. He expects to be paid. So all kinds of problems. Sometimes too, the technical issues can happen. Once you cannot produce power at an optimum level, it will trigger a shutdown of the system, and that's when we have system failure. We shouldn't be having system failures with the regularity with which we are having it now. It was not this bad. I wonder what is happening. And then, of course, we are not doing enough. Some Nigerians who have electricity constantly in their areas, and they deceive themselves that, oh, electricity has improved. It's an illiterate way of assessing progress in that sector. The way to assess progress is to look at the quantum of electricity generated the quantum willed by the TCN and the quantum distributed.
At the end of the day.
That is how you can, not by simply looking at, oh, in my area you have so much light. Oh, but there are people who don't have at all. There are communities that a whole month they may not even have light in this same country. So this is the thing. We are not doing enough.
You are places like larger community in those states. They've not seen light in years.
Some parts, when I go to the north, there are some places you just see that almost permanently we are on what's it called? Generator. So, but some people, they have not even put on their generator for weeks. What we want to see is let this thing percolate across the country. And the way to know that that will happen is when we start seeing Nigeria able to at least wheel up to 10,000 megawatts. You read what the manufacturer said last week, that on their own, they are generating 14,000. They calculated what they are using, largely using diesel.
Independent, okay.
Yes, they are using diesel. They are using generator and the rest. They are not benefiting significantly from the national grid. So if manufacturing association can say, look, we generate 14,000 megawatts by ourselves, that's to tell you the deficit that we are suffering in that sector. But some people don't want this said publicly. They will say, oh, in my area there is improvement. That it may be improvement in your area, but it may not, there may not be improvement in Paul's place.
Paul, I don't know. We can't use a co-distribution company and Ikeja distribution company as a yardstick. But going by what we've seen recently, I don't know, maybe there's this time in the year, I don't know, maybe there's always a time that you have like stability in that sector. That you can say you're doing 18, 19 hours, but all of a sudden, after some time, it will drop. But we've got it to that time now.
Some people are saying it's because it's raining, but we know that our power is more of gas power than hydro. So I don't understand the logic behind it.
Maybe before, it was Obasanjo that came and built,
but now,
built 10 power plants, gas fired. In the past, we rely so much on hydro. You can say that back then.
So I was trying to understand the logic. So I was trying to understand the logic behind because it's raining. Like Jide said, you can't say Uhuru. There are so many areas. Like in my area now, well, there's some improvement, though there's a decline, some decline now. There are people that I have friends who tell me that their area, they don't have, are they not also Nigerians? And what even bothers me is that we know the problem. National Grid has failed for the 7th time this year. This is the 7th time it has failed. We know we know the problems. So what is
this
now?
Is just September.
This is just September. We don't know how many more times it will fail before the end of the year. So if we know the problems, why are we not fixing them? I've also heard that the effort, like he said, saboteurs. I've also heard that power towers are attacked. I've also heard about bush burning affecting, the grid or something like that. But if these are we are very good at analyzing, itemizing problems. What we are very good in this country is we know the problems, but we are not good at bringing solutions. And that's a major problem. We want a situation where we will not have this kind of problem, whatever has to be done. If it is even the surveillance, the monitoring technology or that is faulty, why don't we just improve on it, the way we monitor or surveil, mount surveillance on these gas pipelines? It should also bother us. Nigeria has large deposit of gas. We even do gas flaring and all of that. Why are we like
LNG is one of the largest.
The child of a meat monger that eats bones. It's very incongruous. So we need to fix the problem. Like VKO said, we've had cases of system failure before, but it's been so frequent this year. How do you explain that? How do you even understand? How do you want to explain that satisfactorily?
BKO, are we going to solve this problem in our generation?
Let me even break it down. In February, we had one. In March, we had 2 system failures. In April, we had 2 system failures. In June, we had 1. In July, we had 1 as well. August, we had 1.
8 in all.
8 in all.
Within
this
a
year.
year.
Yes.
Oh, it's even 8. I said 7.
No, it's 8.
It's 8, okay.
8. So it's I know that this government has done a lot freshening up the grid. Some of these power towers that you are seeing have been there since the 60s. You know, equipment need to be constantly.
I know we have this pact with Siemens lately. They've been bringing some transformers.
It's just beginning now. Just
no, you can't have improvement immediately.
Okay.
If they are bringing
investments.
Yes, in that sector
of infrastructure,
you have to sustain the investment, and our people too need to stop the energy theft that is rampant. There are some unscrupulous Nigerians that are not even prepared to pay. They bypass the meter. You know, and at the end of the day, they are the ones who will be abusing the discourse, abusing the. We are not behaving well at all. Pay for what you use.
I said yesterday, we don't love this country.
Yes, a lot of our people, you know, they don't love the country.
They'll go to the poll, they'll just get ladders.
I saw someone who was electrocuted. He was trying to steal the grid. TCN's grid, I mean, cables. And he got electrocuted. He was just hanging there, like somebody prostrating. He said, well, we don't want to rejoice about the death of anyone. But if you do not know how to behave, then if that fate befalls you, I don't think people will publicly agonize over your death. I mean, it makes no sense. We need improvement in that sector. You can't even drive industrial growth
at all.
There's no guarantee.
Yes, we can't.
The medium-scale industry.
We can't.
And we need other sources of electricity, not just even, what's it called? Not just
gas, not just hydro.
Let's even have renewable energy.
Solar.
You know, South Africa uses coal largely. That's what they rely on largely. Brazil relies on hydro.
Can you imagine? And in Enugu, we have the largest deposit of coal.
No, once we find something, we ignore what used to serve us. If South Africa is relying on coal, you know, and they are generating about 50,000 megawatts daily, they still think that it's not enough. But look at us.
50,000 megawatts. And yes. Siemens projection is that by 2024, we'll start having 70,000 or something.
70. All right.
No, 7,000 I meant to say. That's their projection.
Let them even start somewhere.
Moving on.